Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning all.
So happy to see so many people in this webinar this morning. We're going to do a quick sound check just to see if everybody can hear us well. I've seen a lot of people in the chat. Maybe you can let us know whether the sound is good. You can see and hear as well. Loud and clear. Sounds okay. Very good. Very good. Okay, so I guess we can start. So thank you guys. Thank you and welcome to this new webinar on AI. We've had a webinar in September of last year. This is not a rerun of that webinar. So we have revised, a lot of our content also to reflect sort of the quickly developing world of AI. And last time we focused a lot on the role of AI in the innovation process, and this time we'll broaden our scope a bit more to also include, other business functions and applications. And also, obviously, how to empower your organization in using AI, which is an important topic, and we get a lot of questions about this. And what's also new in this webinar is my co-host. Frequent attendants of our webinars know that normally I'm here with my friend Mark, and this time I'm joined by Boudewijn Zijlmans, and we call him the AI Whisperer. So he will introduce himself shortly after the next couple of messages.
I won't whisper.
Yeah, you won't whisper. That's good. That's good. So we're celebrating 10 years of innovation this year. So RevelX has been around since 2014, and we're also airing our 21st webinar, which sounds like a lot. Many of our previous webinars are available on our website if you want to sort of rewatch them or review them. And there's also playbooks and sort of our podcast experiments on there as well. You can, for example, listen to our podcast with KLM on how we build KLM Blue Labs, but also our podcast on our partnership with the Dutch Olympic Committee and Ministry of Health on sports innovation. And we also, share a lot of content besides that. So if you want to get more information about that, go to our website. Then, to your hosts for today, I just announced a little bit I would say real hosts, because obviously this webinar could be done by, AI-driven talking heads. But it's me and Matthijs Osman, partner at RevelX, on a journey of discovering when it comes to AI. So I'm very happy and honored to have Boudewijn Zijlmans with me, as I said before, the AI Whisperer. So maybe, Boudewijn, you can say a couple of words about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me in the first place. Just a little broadened because I didn't attend one of the previous 20 webinars, but my name is Boudewijn Zijlmans. I was once trained as a physicist, And one of my first jobs was with a startup called Lost Boys. And Lost Boys was founded by Michiel Mol. And Michiel Mol I knew from the university in Leiden. And back in the days, actually, Michiel Mol graduated on a study on a neural web network, where he used a neural network to get license plates information from small pictures. And he needed a lot of computing power back then. It was almost not available, but he managed to. And that was already a small burst in AI back in the days. Lost Boys became a rather large internet company. We had a listing at the stock exchange at a certain moment. And I've been working in digital services and change and innovation ever since. Right now, I am, you guys dubbed my work the AI Whisperer, and I guess that's about what it is. I support C-level boards and non-executive boards as well in these, very, very quick changing times of AI. What is it really, and that in a very, let's say, graspable way, I hope. That's what I do now. So okay. Good to have you here, and let's see whether we can share some info with the people.
Great. Well, thank you for the introduction, and happy to have you. And as you guys heard, there's a lot of experience here from the grassroots period of AI. So what we'll be covering today is basically a 5-part agenda. We'll do a bit of an overview of key AI concepts. Then we'll talk about AI in business. So how does AI work for your business? How can you empower your organization in using AI? We'll give you some practical tips, and we'll end with a Q&A. As I said, this is a journey in exploration. Our aim is to really demystify the world of AI. This is not a guru talk. We don't pretend to know it all, although obviously have a lot of experience on the table. And we really believe that we're at the forefront of a sort of a major breakthrough in in driving massive value from AI. So that's going to be the sort of the guardrails for the discussion today. It's good to see you guys in the chat. If you have any questions, we like to answer your questions also during the session. There's a Q&A obviously planned for the end of this session. But time is our enemy, and we have a lot to talk about. So don't hold back in asking your questions, and we'll try to answer them as they come up.
Yeah, and of course, there are a lot of people attending. Thanks for that. We're kind of curious from you guys in the audience who is already using AI in their organization. And we have a short poll, and please give us some feedback, because then we understand a bit how the audience is flying on this topic right now.
Yeah. So Rob just launched the webinar, or actually the poll. So what we'd like to know from you guys is, how are you using AI in your organization? So either, you cannot or are not allowed to use it, or you're not exploring options, made a first attempt in applying. And also, obviously, we apply AI regularly already. And if you have, if you want to sort of provide us with a little bit of feedback on how you are using AI or why you are not using AI in the chat, that would be very helpful. Also, obviously, to steer the direction.
Well, I see some answers coming in, and there's only a relatively small percentage of people who are not allowed or cannot use AI, and that is kind of surprising. But because we do stumble upon quite a lot of organizations where they started with putting out a ban on AI use, so that's good.
Yeah. Well, maybe it says something about our audience today. Huh? So these people are maybe a little bit further advanced in the use of AI.
Yeah, we planned a small lecture on what it is actually, and maybe we can skip through that a little bit faster now. That's good to hear.
Okay, let's see. Well, thank you for the feedback, and also thank you for giving some answers in the chat. We see some translations, troubleshooting, or code writing, exploring AI options for products. So I think that's all very exciting stuff. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that. let's start with then a quick overview of key AI concepts, because we feel that if you want to make smart decisions about AI, you have to really understand what it's about. So we'll do what we'll call the micro masterclass in machine learning, deep learning, and a little bit of generative AI before we also touch upon the concept of general intelligence or artificial general intelligence. But we'll keep it short and sweet. And if you have any questions, just let us know. Obviously, most of us were basically faced with ChatGPT in November of 2022, which I think was really a landmark moment, because AI became something very real for a lot of people, became very tangible, and it was something else than just this far away idea of what AI could be. So with ChatGPT, it became a very public thing, and we've seen that in less than a week, ChatGPT racked up 1 million users, which was obviously quite astonishing. And if you look at some of the statistics of, let's say, other technologies or technology applications, you can see we're a bit amazed. If you take Netflix, for example, in '99, it took them 3.5 years to get to 1 million users.
Cool.
Facebook 10 months, Spotify 5 months, and then ChatGPT obviously 5 days, which was quite a feat. There's only one other application which was quicker, and that was Threads by Meta, which took them about 2 hours to get to 1 million. But okay,
that's not really fair, right?
That's not really a fair comparison.
But I remember being present at the launch, and I was working in AI already for quite a while. But the wow effect of that moment was astonishing. I thought, well, I've been around, I've seen everything come and go, but this is a total game changer, for sure.
Yeah, well, and that was for many people. So when we talk about AI, we really mean like the human-like tasks that a computer can take on. And just for a little bit of perspective, maybe Boudewijn, you can talk us a little bit through the let's say the main major milestones in AI.
Well, that sounds easy, but I'm going to try. Well, let's say the artificial intelligence is, of course, a form of intelligence that is not a human form of intelligence, and the part of machine learning was already coined in the late 50s already, and then somebody came up with that idea, and you could say that it is defined or so as the field of study that gives computer the capacity to learn without being explicitly programmed. Because if you program a computer, then it does exactly what you have programmed. But in this case, the outcome of something you put in is different, and what hence comes out is different than when you would have programmed it. And that is a very, very broad definition of machine learning. And later on, we're going to see how the deep learning is a part of machine learning, and that is, of course, where, well, right now the big changes are made. But machine learning has been around for quite a long time, and you could say that if you apply a statistical algorithm on some data and you come up with a new insight because of that, that's already machine learning, and it has been around for quite a while. For one example, already in 2001, when Netflix was still a service that would send you DVDs to your home, but you could order them on their website. They introduced a 5-star rating system, and if you gave those ratings, it could let's say predict what movies you were going to like. And of course, it merely looked at statistical data of other users to predict what you would like. And you might think, well, that's very simple, but in practice, humans are really bad at statistics. So probably if we would do that ourselves, we would come up with other recommendations than the program did. But it's a nice example. And well, there's a fun thing back in 1979 when it says IBM Watson, but it should say IBM Deep Blue. Deep Blue came up with a chess program that, of course, won a match from the world champion Kasparov back in the days. And I was asked to situate in an ad of IBM, where because somebody came to me and said, "Well, I heard you look like a chess player," and it probably had to do with my already hairline that went up all right. But it was celebrated, and it was considered to be a real major breakthrough that a computer could win from a human with chess.
Yeah.
And that is just to get an idea. And this is
the micro masterclass, right?
This is the micro. Well, welcome to the micro masterclass. If you have any questions later on, you probably have, or this is all already very well known. It could be for some people. It might help to get a feel for what we're talking about. So machine learning and deep learning is part of that. Machine learning is a way to train computers with input and then get different output depending on the input. And there are typical three ways to train these machines. And the first is supervised learning, which is by far the biggest part of these kind of learning. And in the supervised learning, you label or annotate data. You tell to the computer, this is the part of the data that you should look at, and this is the outcome that you should have when you are trained. So in this case, I'll give an example later on, but if you have a let's say, I'll give you an example later on. You also can find statistical dependencies of when you do that. But humans need to tell what the right answers are, and that's quite a lot of work. So there are many people also in Africa and in India who are doing this job. They are labeling by hand what the right answer is, whether it's in pictures or in statistical, in text or in graphs. It doesn't matter. You need to tell them what the answer is. If you have unsupervised learning, in that case, you just throw the data in, and the algorithm tries to make sense of what you're doing right then, at that very moment. And then it can easily cluster the data or information that goes with the other part of the data. So it clusters the data, and that can give very much insight as well. On the other hand, if you don't know exactly what you're doing, you could end up with really strange results, and it's not that simple. And the reinforcement learning, and that's the part that everybody understands, of course, that if you are working with a certain system and you give them feedback, for example, in the case of Netflix, in the modern days, you tell this is a nice movie or this is a bad movie. That's a way of giving feedback. But the other way of giving feedback is, of course, if he recommends a certain movie and you don't watch it, that's feedback as well, right? So it learns in that way how to be better at it. And this is a thing we did at a certain moment. We thought we can ask we don't annotate the data. We just give an image of these tomatoes, and we ask them which tomatoes are the most ripe. So make clusters of in terms of ripeness. And we found out that didn't work. It appears that in certain species of tomatoes, the redness of the tomatoes has only very little to do with the ripeness of the tomatoes. Yeah. On the other hand, much later in the process, we were able to use we were using very special cameras. We were able to develop a model that could predict the taste of tomatoes, and that's of course that's an example what's very very appealing in many ways.
Yeah. So yeah, and for me, I like to refer them to being as classification tasks, right? So they classify data or elements.
That's the phrase. Yeah.
Into a certain way, and this in itself already is very powerful technology, right?
Sure.
So if you drive, for example, a Tesla, the autopilot mode, for example, is completely based on classification, and it doesn't always work well. And we have here a little bit of an example of how a car
that's
can
down
be confused.
the hill, and it's going to try to stop.
So this is a guy in his Tesla. He's on autopilot, and his car says him he has to stop because it sees a stop sign.
Still slowing down. Oh, it still thinks the Burger King sign is a stop sign. Over and over again. And then it figures it out. Oh, that's not a stop sign.
Yeah, there you go.
Not a stop sign.
So let's get back to the presentation. So what you saw, I hope you guys could see that movie, but it was basically Tesla telling the guy to slow down the car because of a Burger King sign. So classification gone wrong, I would say. Let's move on to deep learning, Boudewijn.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that deep learning is a subset of the machine learning, and it's a special subset because in this case you don't need to know anything about statistical methods or anything. It is in deep learning you are mimicking let's say a brain. You come up with a neural network that consists of neurons, and you don't need to understand the correlation between different classes of data. You only need to tell him what is the right answer, and the neurons in between, after it has been trained, will figure out a way what the answers could be. And typically in straightforward applications, these neural networks have between tens or up to hundreds and sometimes thousands of neurons. And of course, later on we will talk about Gen AI with the large language models. They have even much more neurons, like a couple of million. But don't forget that the human brain has about 80 billion neurons, and that's a total different story. And to give you a feel for how it works, you could say that every neural network, when you start, they're all the same. They could differ in the amount of neurons, but you have an input layer where you just feed the data in, and at the end you have the output with the result, and in between some magical things are happening. In the beginning there's an input, and there in the next layer they call hidden layers. There are more than one neurons present, and all neurons are connected to the next layer with each other to each other. And at the start, if you give an input in an untrained network, it will give all the possible answers with the same weight. So if you give in this case, suppose you feed him with 1 pixel of one particular color, you feed it at the left side, and after if you offer it to the neural network, it will say it is both red, green, gray, dark, and all at the same time. However, if you start training and you offer him a green pixel, and you tell him, well, the answer here in this case is a green, or you give a dark green pixel and you say the answer in this case is green and dark, and you give you a red pixel and you say the answer here is red, it starts, when you train it, it starts to calculate what path you might say would be preferred to get the best answer in all of the cases that you have trained it. So of course it depends a lot what training data you use, what kind of answer you will. You could say that it tries to find out a, let's say, preferred path to the most likely right answer. So keep in mind that neural networks are always making a prediction with the largest odds, and it is not a, let's say, firm or discrete result. And I think this is, we found out that during the times this has become such a powerful way of, let's say, making algorithms, because that's mostly what it is, that it is, it's really incredible.
So it's mostly about prediction, right? So you learn a pattern, and whenever you get a certain input, predict what the
it's always a prediction which is closest by, let's say, the data you offered it when you trained it. So if you leave out all red pixels when you train, and you offer him a red pixel, it will tell probably that it is green and yellow at the same time, because it doesn't know.
Maybe an interesting one, because obviously when we talk about deep learning, you cannot discard Google DeepMind, right? And I'm sure that many people remember AlphaGo, which was Google's machine in 2016 that applied deep learning to the game of Go, right? Which is a very complicated game, about 3,000 years old. And I think the game has more options or more possibilities than there are atoms in the universe. So it's extremely complex, and it requires basically a lot of our human thinking to be successful in this. And Google challenged, the best player, I think he was Korean, in the world to a game of Go. And there's a wonderful documentary made about this. We have a short clip from this documentary just to show you, what AlphaGo could do also in terms of making irrational decisions. So maybe Rob, if you can play that clip for us.
Is the hinge of the game.
Oh, look at that move. That's an exciting move.
Look, basically,
Oh, he found the wedge.
Whoa.
It's going to change the equation because now black cannot escape.
That would be so cool if that works.
AlphaGo has just played something maybe unusual.
I'm not actually sure what AlphaGo is trying to do here.
What's that about?
You don't really understand.
Well.
That was a sharp drop in win.
That's the sharp in win rate we've seen.
You dropped it. Wow.
This could be that it actually can't find a way through. I think this is far enough ahead to see that it doesn't work, and now maybe it's on tilt. I don't know.
So the data scientists behind Google DeepMind, they're all in awe, and they didn't think this was at all possible, and deem Google Blue to be going on tilt. But I think it's he won it at the end, right? So
Yeah, it won 4-1. Lee actually won one game, which was already pretty smart of this guy. But the fun thing was that also AlphaGo mentioned that there was a 1 in 10,000 odds that a human would have played this move, and so it even knows that because it was trained, of course, on human data games. I love that. Yeah.
So a great example of what deep learning can do. And now, obviously we're in this age of, generative AI with, again, ChatGPT and all of the other applications. And it really is a branch of artificial intelligence focused on creating new content, using prompts from text and images, and it can make music and videos. And it really learns from sort of existing data to generate original outputs that are, let's say, similar but not identical. So again, the prediction of what comes next, or what should a picture look like, what should the sound look like, is part of generative AI. And I'm sure you all played with ChatGPT and sort of drafting emails or even reports, or I use ChatGPT a lot, or actually Claude, to draft funny responses to emails I get from which I think are spam. But anyway, I get a kick out of doing that. But also, image generation is a very real thing, obviously,
So powerful.
In generative AI. It's now obviously people can use DALL-E or Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, but also in Photoshop, for example, it has a very powerful AI engine in it, which I think is very impressive. Then audio generation. Well, you are a music guy, right? So you can basically use AI to build your own jukebox, but also 11 Labs is a company which is spearheading the development of audio generation.
Especially on voices, it's really incredible what these guys can do with so little information, so little input. They can mimic your voice in half a minute. It's incredible.
It's incredible. Yeah. And in terms of video generation, actually OpenAI has launched Sora, which is at all what it can produce. It can produce cinema-like production just basically from text. So you give it a prompt and it will start producing a video, which is it's just incredible to see. And the Boudewijn already alluded to it a little bit. All of these applications, they're sort of based on large language models, right? So they're like super intelligent machines. They can understand and generate human-like language, and also machine and deep learning trained on massive amounts of data from textbooks and basically the entire internet and other sources. And it allows them to learn and recognize patterns and sort of communicate with people. And just to give you a sense of how big this is, GPT-3 was trained on 500 billion words, which is about 1,000 years human reading. So that's actually quite a large corpus that it's using. It's applying its algorithms to. And just to put it a little bit into perspective, so GPTs are what we call generative pre-trained transformers. So again, pre-trained, but it's a specific neural network architecture that allows us to create output from text, and can basically leverage that transformer architecture in language processing. But there's a lot written about that. Just to give you a feel for some of the applications of what can generative do. You can learn a new language, for example. A lot of people are using Duolingo, which is I think is a very well-known app for people to let's say learn a new language. And basically, they use GPT-4 to power the discussion, or at least the dialogue that you can have within the app. So it can basically predict, if your learning pattern is a certain way, what should we ask you, and how should a dialogue be?
Which almost makes it more natural way to learn in your specific case, right? It's personalizing for your particular case, which I think is already a pretty smart application of a large language model. Yeah.
Absolutely. So maybe just to summarize.
As we started, one a little bigger even with AI in general, and part of that, of course, has become machine learning, because you might need a machine to have something artificial, but there are other examples. Deep learning as a subset of machine learning, which is very, very powerful already 4 or 5 years ago. But now it seems that these large language models are becoming, state of the art. It's relatively new, but everybody, it speaks so much to the imagination of people, and especially in the case of GPTs, the idea that you can use normal people language to interact with a computer or tell a computer what you would like him to do, that is in an abstract way that's such a big breakthrough. We are only seeing the beginnings of that part, but interaction in human language with computers, that has been the dream of all time already.
Yeah, and that's what we. When we look at IA systems, we jokingly say they're just parrots with a great memory, right? So they get a lot of input, and they're able to
but I think we should. It is true, of course, but please keep in mind that they are programmed to come up with new answers instead of already existing answers, but in the end, everything that you ask him is already in the system, right? So we have heard about these prompt engineering, new jobs where you can be a prompt engineer. If you can devise the right prompts, you can get any output you like. But a prompt is merely a thing with which you can make sure that you give the large language model a context of which you want your answer to be found. And please keep in mind, it's a predicting machine. So it really, basically, it predicts every next word of the answer it is showing you. Yeah. And that it does it in a very smart way in over 500 dimensions, word clouds, and we can get into that later. But it is very smart. But in the end, it cannot give something else than it's already in. And we have heard it gives the most desirable answer, but you can actually tell him how creative it should be. And of course, if you tell him to be really creative, it comes up with nonsense anyhow. Yeah. But it's very great.
I think also looking at the time, we have to move on to the next
section, right? This also was too long, right? Yeah. Okay.
It's okay. It's okay. So, the next stage is, as we said, is artificial general intelligence. Maybe Boudewijn, a couple of words on that.
Well, let's say artificial general intelligence is the idea that there is a omnipresent and what's the word here? Scient. That's the word. Sorry, I was looking for that. Omniscient being a computer that knows all, but also has a certain, theoretically, it should have a certain degree of self-understanding or self-awareness even. And if you talk about self-awareness, of course, the idea, of course, was for a long time that humans were the only animals that were self-aware. And we found out, of course, that's not true. But often there was a certain divinity given to the idea that people can be self-aware and animals cannot. And at the moment that computers can be not only can perform any task you ask them, and they can do that better than humans can, or equally good, then you get the idea of artificial general intelligence, and that is both exciting and a little bit spooky as well. Yeah.
And it's I think we have an example here of an example of general intelligence from many years ago, right? So this is from the Space Odyssey movie.
Yeah, already a fan. Back you are. I'm certainly a fan, but because it spoke to the imagination in 1968 already, and that's a very long time ago.
Okay, let's have a look at that clip, and thank you for the cue. We'll mute our sound.
The pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Hal.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me. And I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
Where the hell did you get that idea, Hal?
Yeah, so a great example of a machine already sort of trying to think for itself and taking measures based on what it heard.
The mission is too important to let you jeopardize it.
So it knows better than the human.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, so
just a couple of words about the fact that it's exponential, and I will leave it to one simple example. These large language models can produce data, right? That's what they're doing when you ask them questions. Then they are producing data. And the study found out that if it is producing data, after it has produced data, it can decide what part of that data will make the large language model smarter. So it can produce data itself. It can divide the data it has produced in two parts, and it can be one of the parts can be used to train it to make it better. And that, of course, is a very strange idea, that it can make something it didn't know, but it can also distinguish the better data from the worse data to make it better. And that's, well, knowing where that will end.
Okay, so I think that concludes our micro masterclass on AI. Hopefully that was useful for you guys. Let's turn it to AI in business and how AI impacts your business. Well, we just this week, I think there was an article from Google published, and basically reminded us that we have to keep investing in AI education. I guess we're doing that today a little bit. But also adoption and innovation, because we're risking sort of running behind, and we also really feel that the time for taking action was yesterday. And what we mean is just apply AI in your business, because if we look at what AI can do for us today already, it's obviously boosting our efficiency and productivity at scale. I would say it helps us enhance business insights, become more customer centric in our innovations, increase creativity, allow us to do testing. It helps us make data-driven decisions, and also can be a great partner in risk management and fraud. And obviously, with all of these things, there's also these skeptics. So the machines are going to take over our jobs. But really, if you look at what AI can do today, it leaves 1 in 5 jobs materially exposed, and that means that 50% or more of the tasks of these people can be taken over by AI. And I'm not really personally afraid that the machines will take over our jobs. I think it's more that the people who use AI will take over the jobs of people who don't use AI. So it's I really like this quote from Sebastian Thun. He's a computer scientist, and he basically says, AI won't be good at replacing humans. It will be humans who will be good at replacing themselves, using AI. So not so worried about the computers taking over, but let's make sure that we keep investing. And we also already see a lot of examples of Gen AI taking over roles, right?
And of course, you mentioned already in online marketing and in creating images. There's a lot of work be done there, but there are also I think very tangible examples. Here you see an example of Deloitte that is going to do all annual reports, checks of all the businesses they have in their portfolio. In 2025, they want to have all the annual reports checked by their AI program. But other things at a GP, the anamnesis can be done by AI, and in legal you see that there are not only drafting contracts is being done a lot by using large language models, but also looking at, let's say, previous case law references. It can be really, really fast. And well, there are numerous different examples to be given where people are experimenting to have this in the core of their business, because that's something we should keep in the back of your mind.
Yeah, and you also made an interesting observation about all talking about Gen AI, and people are calling sort of the shiny object syndrome, so something that everybody's looking at. But
yeah, that's a good phrase.
Yeah, you have a different perspective.
Well, I think that the generative AI, of course, it appeals to the imagination tremendously, and it's going to go very, very, very fast. However, this supervised learning thing, and we're going to show an example later on, but that has been around for quite a while now, and also with these neural networks, deep learning algorithms. And what you see is that it has become relatively mature. Not relatively, it really has become mature. There are good platforms which you can use. They are already connected to all kind of cloud services of large cloud services providers, and you can really easily and relatively cheap use them. So that especially that part gives way to applications that are more cheap than the existing ones, and that are, let's say, also possible in places in your processes that you could not consider previously. So I think really,
maybe we should go to that example.
Oh, is it right now? Oh, that's good. Let's go then.
Yeah.
Well, this is
called Blicker. I think you have some experience with this.
Yeah, I headed the company for a while, and Blicker is an example of a tool where you can send an image of a utility meter, and then you say, well, utility meters, who has utility meters these days? But you can send an image of them.
That's your water, electricity, gas.
Typically those three.
Yeah.
And you can send an image to their online to their software as a service, and it gives back the meter reading, and it does that with an accuracy of over 99% by now. It has been trained on 10,000s of images, but by now it has become so good that it can also tell meters apart without having seen one image of that meter previously. It works everywhere.
Okay.
So in the world there are typically over 20 billion meter readings every year, and in the Netherlands, of course, we need to replace our smart meters by now. But in the rest of the world, there are still a lot of work to be done. In India, for example, every month, every meter needs to be read. About a third of all electricity goes to waste, and nobody knows where it goes. But even in Africa, it could be weekly meter readings. And if you imagine the fact that humans can get up to 95% accuracy, there's a 5% has wrong meter readings in the system of the provider of the electricity, and this 5% counts for such a lot of money to get the right meter reading in the system and the right billing to the customer, that everybody knows, everybody who has been working with call centers or so know how expensive that is.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big business case if you can easily get the right answer by sending an image to something there. Yeah. Well, I think I've explained the most important part of these advantages, but I think that in practice, if we go to the next slide, there's a nice example, because Steden, it's a network maintainer, so to say, of about a third in the Netherlands. They were one of the first clients for this one, and you see that they were able to save a lot of money on the part we already said. But maybe the most important part was that they were, by law, obliged to visit every meter and inspect every meter manually every 3 years. And because of these results and with these images, you can not only see whether these meters have the right meter reading, but also you can see whether the seals are still intact or not. They were able to ask the law-making people, can we get rid of that thing? And that saved them a lot of money. Yeah. By now, Blicker is processing tens of millions of images every month, all around the world. And I think that's a very, very simple idea. Nobody would have thought of this simple idea, but it turns out to be a very economical, feasible concept.
So in this case, AI can be used for, like you say, very basic applications, but very high impact in the organization.
It could be simple, and don't forget, this started 5 years ago. So people, this is AI as well, right? It's AI.
I think that's interesting in the sense that people are always looking for the holy grail of, how can we apply AI to do sort of really grandiose things, but these are seemingly, let's say, simple applications which have a huge payoff. If we go into a bit more, let's say, more complex environment, I also talked about this in the beginning. We've been working with KLM to build their KLM Blue Labs, which is their technology innovation center. And within KLM, they use AI to build digital twins for aviation. And like in your example of Blicker for Steden, they used AI to sort of speed up their process and minimize administrative burdens and gain some money. Here, KLM is using sort of AI in the context of, for example, airplane turnaround time, right? So they're using AI to build systems, to build digital twins, which basically help them simulate, how they could optimize their processes to get planes off the ground quicker and optimize those processes. So that's those. I think those are very interesting applications. And in our last webinar, we talked about how AI can sort of empower the innovation function within the organization. And if you want to learn more about the Philips case and sports headphones, which we introduced then, please look at our previous webinar. But we basically we sort of mimicked the process that we went through with Philips in sort of ideating, let's say, new propositions for sports headphones, and also really testing those ideas with what we call synthetic personas, just to get early feedback from the market. And that's just a very powerful way of speeding up your innovation process. And a little bit of a self promo. We're actually working on a proposition in which we can help you guys sort of apply AI in the innovation process yourselves. And do things like, for example, persona development, visualize products for validation, also build, complete, business plans. So I think that's a very, exciting.
We will come with that shortly, but the basic idea is that we have all tooling in place to go through your innovation process within 1 week, and that is very, very, I think, powerful to get a feel for the power of all these instruments.
So just to give you some these were just some examples of how you could use AI, and we're really want to learn from you guys which benefits you guys would like to capture with AI. So Rob is now launching.
I don't have to pull. I'm sorry.
Oh, you don't have. Okay, so we have a a bit of a technical thing. Don't worry. Let's use the chat. So we talked about, how can you use AI to become more productive, to be more creative in the sense of, ideating new propositions, for example, how you could use it in customer care, service improvement, again, the stay-in example, but also commercial effectiveness. But maybe there are other applications that you guys are actually benefits that you are looking to capture. So again, no poll, but if you can use the chat just to let us know how you are looking to implement AI and what benefits you would like to capture. We're obviously very, very curious. But anyway, so as we're waiting for you guys to type in your remarks, we'll go to the next section, which is about obviously applying AI in your organization. And what we find, and luckily from our poll at the beginning, a lot of you are already working with AI and to start taking your first steps in experiments. We see that most of the companies that we work with, they have a lot of apprehension in using AI in their organizations. And a larger study conducted by McKinsey showed that over 65% of business leaders, they characterize the implementation of AI as being very important, but about 85 to 90% have no strategy. So they have no idea of how to do that. And a lot of that has to do with sort of uncertainty, doubt, but also lack of awareness of what it can do. And obviously we see what we see with generative AI at the moment, and there's a lot of attention being paid to that. Is that a lot of things go wrong, and obviously as generative AI is using large language models, when they get things wrong, they do get things wrong a lot, but they do it in a very plausible way. So it's very hard to sort of determine whether AI is giving you the right answer, yes or no. Also, obviously, there is also a lot of publicity about bias and toxicity, copyrights and intellectual property problems and personal data. So rightfully, people are sort of apprehensive about should we use generative AI in the business. But then again, we just showed you a couple of examples of how you can use sort of basic AI, labeled AI, to power your processes as well.
Well, I see a question that a while ago, Mo Kaudat, and he's a very, very inspiring guy, to my opinion. He claimed that AI is worse than climate change. And what's our opinion on that? And it has a little bit to do with these other concerns. One of them is this AI will generate a lot of content of which we don't know where it originated from, which already is a big problem, of course, on the internet right now. Social media have come up with so much algorithms to sell as many advertisements as they possibly can, and that has led to a relatively polarized society, and we don't have any answers to that. In the EU, we have legislations how to deal with AI, and I think that basically is a very good idea. But the fun thing is that if we do that, then we need the large corporations to be part of the solutions. For example, they need to put in a watermark so you can actually see and check that this part is made with that certain content is made with AI. But how about let's say open source kind of models which are present there as well? Can we trust the big tech corporations to play a vital part in our law or check systems? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. And then the hunger for data will be enormous, because the more data you can put in, apparently it seems that the better the large language models will be. And we produce a lot of data, and it is merely on American tech giants' cloud services where the data is. Is it safe, or will it be used anyway? Or if we make a phone call, how do we know that phone call isn't translated in text and used for the next version? I'm not entirely sure anymore. So there are some worries, and they are not crystallized out already.
Yeah, and I think also part of that perspective, as you said, it's not crystallized. I think we're still learning how to apply AI in our lives, in our businesses, and again, we're still in that learning journey. And but But again, and I think that also plays to the next this next storyline about saying AI being people business, because I think it's also about, how can we make sure that we empower people to use AI, ethically and
exactly.
in the right way.
And it's very fair to say that the technology development will not be limiting us in that way. It goes extremely fast, and it will continue to go so. So the adoption by people of certain technologies will be the limit of what we do. And I think it's going to be there anyway. It's not a question whether it will be there. It will be there and will be used very, very extensively by a lot of people. And I think in general, it's fair to say that if you can make sure that your organization is trained, or the people in the organization know what we're talking about in a very broad sense, is probably enough, and they can identify the locations where the use of AI could benefit the company, you're already pretty far ahead. And you need to prepare for the direct future, and make it part of your policy as well. And in the end, if you look well, you see these two guys running from the lion. How fast do you need to be? You only need to be faster than your competition, right?
Faster than your friend.
In this case, yeah.
Yeah. So we have just a few more minutes in this webinar. So I'd really like to focus a little bit more on what some implementation strategies. I think first of all, it's we should understand the risks of AI to our business, right? So not to build too much of let's say a scary story, but you need to understand what the risks are. You have to understand the impact of those risks, sure, obviously. So how will this play out in the future? Again, like I think in everything, you have to establish governance and oversight. So we have to look at, we were just having this discussion just a couple of days ago when social media came to the world, and we were both in the organizations in which social media was a real thing. And the question here really was, how do we deal with the fact that people from within an organization can use social media to discuss elements about our business? And it just came to the conclusion that the only thing you can do is ask people to not be stupid and to use their common sense. But at least you need some governance and human oversight. And it's also focusing on people. I really second what you said about teaching people what AI is about and explaining, building that awareness such that they know when to use it, where to use it, and also when not to use it.
Exactly,
because that's also a big thing. In the end, our statement is don't become the dodo of your industry, right? So I think it's key to invest, both in time, in talking to people who have extensive experience in this area, invest in experimentation, and try to pick, an area of the business that is small enough, sort of not to cause a lot of problems if things go wrong. But at least, please, don't become the dodo. Please start investing in the use of AI. And we'll share these slides. We have we think it's important to become an AI first organization. And one of the most powerful things that we've done with one of our clients is to build an AI council, which basically is a group of people within the organization. They're just collecting use cases of how can we use AI and how can we use AI effectively within the organization, and then try to build on that. So it really is it's a learning journey. With that said, we really feel that you should start building AI capabilities now, and since we're in the business of building those capabilities, we really welcome you to sort of team up with us. The first thing, actually, we talked about a couple of propositions that we are building to help you guys in the area of AI. And we also want to offer you what we call a power session, which is we dubbed it everything you wanted to know about AI, but were afraid to ask. Credits to Boudewijn for this one. But please hook us up if you want to have more information about this and have this discussion with your management.
Let's like everything. Everything starts at the top and should be okayed by the top. But if the top doesn't know what it's talking about, let's send them to this power session and make them comfortable with what we are talking about here, because that's really important.
As we talked about, there's still a couple of things in the works. Accelerate your innovation process with AI, practical AI tooling. So please keep an eye out on our channels. And also, again, as I discussed in the beginning, we have a lot of resources available for you, which you can take advantage of. And you can go to our website. It's revelx.co/warehouse, and there's a lot of stuff that you guys can download. As predicted, we came to the conclusion of this webinar. The Q&A obviously suffered from this, but I think we had a lot to share. I want to thank you, Boudewijn, for being with me today.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's really nice. It's very good.
And thank you guys for sticking with us during this hour of talking about AI.
Thanks for joining.
And keep following our 10 years of innovation celebration this year. Have a good day and a lot of success. Experimenting with AI, and be sure to share, all of your experiences with us, and we'll keep sharing our experiences with you.
Yeah, don't be a stranger. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.